Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Hare Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Hare Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Hare Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Hare Ramo 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Hare Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Hare Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Hare Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Hare Ramo 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Hare Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Hare Ramo 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 Hare Hare Oh Hari Bol Hari Bol Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Jaya Radha Madana Mohan Radha Madana Mohan Radhe Radha Madana Mohan Radha Madana Mohan Radhe Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Gopinatha Radha Gopinatha Radhe Radha Gopinatha Radha Gopinatha Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Oh Radhe 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 Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Ganhapika Girihari Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai Sachinandana Gaurahari Ki Jai Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Jai Nityalila Pravishta Om Astautar Sarashishiman Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nityalila Pravishta Om Astautar Sarashishiman Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Nityalila Pravishta Om Astautar Sarashishiman Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Jagat Guru Nityalila Pravishta Om Astautar Sarashishiman Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Mahabhagavat Srila Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Saptam Goswami Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Jai Rupanuga Guru Variga Ki Jai Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol Om Agina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmaye Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Taralaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Prabhajantamanapetya Apeti Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putre Titam Mayatayo Taravo Vinidustam Sarvabhutam Munimanatoshmi Bhaktiya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadi Tarangamadye Kripa Mayitvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charanadavindam Tavai Vasmi Nadivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat Pranams unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurudev, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again, millions and millions of times, unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Leela Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And the same again, Nama Om Vishnu Vadaya, Namo Bhakti Vinodaya, Satchidananda Namane, Gauda Shakti, Swarupaya, Rupanuga Vrayate. To our beloved Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur and all our Rupanuga Guru Vargya, my Dandavat Pranams. So, yes, continuing with our Jaiva-Dharma study, and again we'll go through the first 5 verses of the Falshruti. Falshruti means the fruit of hearing. So this is the fruit of our hearing. We're going to be inspired in this direction.
Prithiviteyata kate dharma nama chale bhagavatakaya save paripurna chale. As indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, second shloka, all the philosophies on earth that are celebrated as dharma are utterly deceptive.
Yes. It's what is Naimitic Dharma, to be rejected. Dharma, Artha, Karma, Moksha. Most of the Shastras previously were focusing on Gyan Kand or Karma Kand. Like the Bhakti Shastras are very, they are there, of course, within the Vedic teachings, but Vyasadeva was not presenting so much. He was presenting more Gyan Kand, Karma Kand, and Gyan Kand. So all of those have to be rejected to actually enter Dharma Projita Kaitavratra Parama Nirmat Sharanam Shatam. This is the 112 that he's talking about. No cheating.
Chale dharma chadi kare satya dharma mati chaturvarga tyaji dharma prema gati. One should completely abandon such deceptive dharmas and observe his mind in true dharma. In other words, one should give up the fourfold goals of material life dharma, artha, kama, moksha and aspire solely for the ultimate destination of Nitya Prem.
Yes, we don't have time, especially in this age of Kali. We simply don't have time for anything less than the direct path.
अमित्वा मीमांसा भ्रमे निजे चढ़ बुद्धि निर्विशेष ब्रह्म ज्ञाने नाहि चित्त शुद्धि. Those who are deluded identify themselves with matter. That is their error. However, one cannot be purified of such delusion by endeavors for Nirvishesh Brahmagyan.
No, Nirvichesh Brahmagan is not going to be any sort of solution. It's just going to put us back where we were originally, in that place where we've more or less come from, that area of the Brahma Jyoti.
विचित्रताहीन हले निर्विशेष होय काल साइमतुल्य से अप्राकृत नाय. The Mayavadi thinks Sri Krishna to be subject to the limitations of time, such as birth and death, and considers that he is not transcendental.
Yes, the Mayavadi, he's only considering from the material aspect because he can't break out of conditioned consciousness. Therefore, time and space are there. Whereas bhakti actually transcends both time and space.
Thus, he rejects Sri Bhagavan's Vichitrata, astonishing characteristics, paraphernalia, qualities, and Leela. Through this vicious attempt, he is left with the philosophy of Nirvishesh Brahm.
Yes, that's tragic.
Tajane hoye dharma ache sunishchaya, prakrita hoyle kabu aprakrita naya. Such base and contemptible gyan which arises out of an attempt to dismember the divine form of Bhagavan is only fit to be rejected. It is prakrita, materialistic, and should never be given credence as aprakrita dharma.
Yes, this
Dharma.
Shastra, this Jaiva-Dharma, is only concerned with pure transcendence. This is the path that we are taking. So today we're coming into the 18th chapter, and we've discussed 3 prameyas about Krishna. Krishna as that supreme person, Krishna as Akila Rasamrita Sindhu, and Sarva Shaktiman. And we've discussed 3 topics, 3
Jiva.
prameyas about the jiva, Vivinamsa, the jiva bound by Maya, and the jiva liberated from Maya. So now we're going to discuss the last 3 prameyas. So we've got this Achintya, Veda, Abheda Tattva today, and then we're going to have the which will be sadhan, bhajan, and then will be priti. So we've come halfway, more than halfway through the Dasmula section already. So now we're coming into this chapter on Veda Abheda Tattva, which is very dense. It's heavy philosophy. It's describing what is Mayavad, what is Brahmavad. Again, we've already discussed it quite extensively, but these truths are Babaji is going to go much more deeply into them here, because to appreciate the distinct, pristine philosophy of Achintya Veda Abheda Tattva, which Mahaprabhu brought and reconciled the 4 sampradayas. The 4 sampradayas, I just want to give a little overview because it'll make it easier for us as we're reading through. So the 4 sampradayas are coming after Advaitavad, after Sankaracharya. Sankaracharya manifested to purify the Buddhistic conceptions that were remaining after Buddha avatar appeared. First Buddha avatar appears, and then Sakya Singha Buddha, the false Buddha, the second Buddha, he appears afterwards. And both are giving Mayavad doctrines for specific reasons. We'll go into that. But then Sankaracharya, he's come to bring the Vedic teachings back and to propound a philosophy that will still satisfy people in the Mayavad thought, but it will at least be quoting from the Vedic Shastras, because the Shastras were pushed out of India because of Lord Buddha wanting to establish this philosophy of ahimsa. So Sankaracharya has come for a specific purpose that's going to be described. But then after him come the four sampradayas, and the first is Ramanuja. And the question of whether the jiva is fully Krishna or a part of Krishna was the constant contention, we can say, within the sampradayas. Sankaracharya had established that yes, the jiva is like Krishna, this Advaitavad, we are one with Krishna. We can come to that place of being one with Krishna. And then Ramanuja is saying, no, there's a speciality. Vaishisht Advaitavad. Vaishisht means speciality. There's a speciality between the jiva and Krishna. And this begins the process. Then Madhvacharya says, no, distinctly there's two. There's the jiva and Krishna, Sudadvaitavad. And then comes Vallabha Acharya. And then this is called, what's this philosophy called? The Rudra Sampradaya, Sudadvaitavad. Sudadvaitavad, pure oneness. And this is referencing Radha and Krishna, but it's without Parakiya. And then the Nimbaditya Sampradaya, the Kumara Sampradaya. This is, what's that one called? Dvaita Advaita. Dvaita Advaita. This is going to be described. So all of these different sampradayas will be opened out to some degree to show that these sampradayas were all saying that it was Krishna as a vastu. Krishna is, there's three vastus, Krishna, Jiva, and Maya. So the vastu as Krishna was vikar, was transforming into the worlds, into this illusory world where we live. But this was actually incorrect, because it's Shakti Parinamvad, it's called, not Vastu Parinamvad. Vastu Parinamvad is what all the four sampradayas proclaimed, that Krishna is transforming. Mahaprabhu came and he said, no, it's not Krishna who's transforming, it's Krishna's Shakti. And we've already discussed this in the Shakti Tattva, chapter 14, how Shakti is doing everything. Shaktiman is not doing anything. So Shakti is transforming. So that's called Shakti Parinava. So basically that's just a tiny, tiny little beginning awareness. So when we climb into it, we'll have some kind of point to move on. So, but it is quite dense. Okay, Prabhu. Chapter 18.
Chapter 18 Prameya Veda Abheda Tattva. Veni Madhav had a wicked mind. Thus, when Vrajanath scorned him, he decided to seek revenge by teaching Vrajanath and the Mayapur Vaishnava a lesson. He made a plan with some like-minded friends that when Vrajanath returned from Mayapur, they would surround him in a secluded place near Lakshmana Hill and give him a sound thrashing. Somehow or the other, Vrajanath got wind of all this and consulted with Babaji. They agreed that they would come to Mayapur
He would come to
that
Mayapur.
he would come to Mayapur less frequently and then only during the day and accompanied by a bodyguard. Vrajanath had some tenants in the village, amongst whom Harisha was expert at stick fighting. One day, Vrajanath called him and made a request. He said, Harisha, I'm having a little difficulty these days, but if you help me, I might have a way out. Harisha said, Thakur, I can lay down my life for you. I will kill your enemy today if you tell me. Vrajanath replied, Veni Madhav is a very wicked man and he means to cause me some trouble. He is creating so much disturbance that I dare not go to visit the Vaishnavas in Shiva's Anga. He has arranged with some of his devious friends to create trouble for me on my way home. Harisha became disturbed when he heard this and he replied, Thakur, as long as there is breath in my body, you need have no fear. It looks as if this stick of mine will soon come to a good use against Veni Madhav. Just take me along with you whenever you go to Mayapur, and I will handle 100 opponents by myself. After Vrajanath had made this arrangement with Harisha, he resumed his visits to Mayapur every second or fourth day, but he could not stay late. Yet he remained dissatisfied within himself when he could not discuss Tattva. After some 10 or 20 days had passed in this way, the wicked Veni Madhav was bitten by a snake and died. When Rajanath heard the news, he wondered, did he meet such a fate because of his envy of the Vaishnavas? Then he concluded, his allotted lifespan had finished, and so he died. Adya vabdha satante va mrityurvai praninam dhruvaha. Srimad Bhagavatam. One may die today or after 100 of years, but death is sure for every living entity. This is an eternal truth. Now my path to Shiva's Anga is in Mayapur is clear. That day, Vrajanath reached Shiva's Anga a little after dusk. He offered his obeisances to Raghunath Das Babaji and said, from today, I will be able to come to serve your lotus feet every day, for the obstacle in the form of Veni Madhav has left this world. At first, the soft hearted Babaji became a little disturbed on hearing about the death of this spiritual unconscious person, Anudita Vivek Jiva. Then he calmed himself and said, Swakarma Phala Bhuk Puman. Everyone enjoys or suffers the results of his karma. The jiva belongs to Krishna and he will go wherever Krishna sends him. Anyway, Baba, I hope you have no other anxiety. Vrajanath, only one. I have missed hearing your nectarian talks all these days. Today, I want to hear the remaining instructions on Dashamula. Babaji, I am always available for you. Now, where did we stop last time? Are there any questions in your heart after our last conversation? Vrajanath, what is the name of Sri Gaura Kishore's pure and invaluable philosophical teachings? The previous acharyas have established the philosophies of Advaitavad, exclusive monism,
This was Sankaracharya.
Dvaitavad, dualism,
That's Madhvacharya.
Shuddha Advaitavad, purified non dualism,
Hmm.
Vishishta Advaitavad,
This is Ramanuja.
specialized non dualism, and Advaitavad, dualism with monism.
Yeah, this is Nimbaditya.
Maharaj, Dvaitavad is Madhvacharya, right?
No, Dvaitavad is Madhvacharya, yes.
Shuddha
And
Advaita,
Dvaita is Nimbaditya.
Nimbadita,
And Suddhadvaita is Rudra Sampradaya,
Rudra,
Vishnu Swami. And Vaishistya is
Ramanuja.
Ramanuja. Actually, if you have one of these little books on page 36, it's got what Mahaprabhu took from each Sampradaya and a little bit about them. So it's very helpful to have. Okay, here, page 36.
Has Sri Gauranga Dev accepted any of these, or has he founded a different philosophical school? When you were instructing me about the system of Sampradaya, you said that Sri Gauranga Dev belongs to the Brahma Sampradaya. In that case, should we consider him to be an Acharya of Madhvacharya's Dvaitavad? Babaji. Baba, we should hear the eighth shloka of Dashamula. Hare Shakthe Sarvachit Achit Akhilam Syat Parinatihi. Vivratam no Satyam Shrutim iti Viruddham Kalimalam. Harer Beda Habedo Shruti Vihita Tattvam Suvimalam. Tat Premana Siddhir Bhavati Nitram Nitya Vishaye. Dashamula 8th. The entire spiritual and material creation is a transformation of Krishna's Shakti. The impersonal
This is the
philosophy.
point. He's saying, he's establishing straight away, it's a transformation, a vikar. Vikar means transformation of Krishna's Shakti, not Krishna himself. So this is the distinction that Mahaprabhu added. He purified all the misconceptions within the Sampradaya by establishing that it's Shakti Parinambad.
The impersonal philosophy of illusion, Vivrata Vad, is not true. It is an impurity that has been produced by Kali Yuga.
And this is what Sankaracharya had to propagate to bring the Vedic teachings back. That's why it's remained, but it's not in the Vedic teachings at all. This Vivartavad is like Mayavad.
And is contrary to the teachings of the Vedas. The Vedas support Achintya Beda Beda Tattva, inconceivable oneness and difference, as the pure and absolute doctrine, and one can attain perfect love for eternal absolute when he accepts this principle.
So basically, this is what this whole chapter is going to be unpacking. So this is capsulating the whole chapter, is about this verse.
The conclusive teachings of the Upanishads are known as Vedanta, and in order to bring their precise meaning to light, Vyasadeva compiled a book of 4 chapters called Brahma Sutra or Vedanta Sutra. The the Vedanta commands great respect amongst the intellectual class. In principle, Vedanta Sutra is widely accepted as the proper exposition of truths taught in the Vedas.
Yes, capsulating the entirety of the Vedas into the Veda Sutras, Vedantic Sutras.
From this Vedanta Sutra, the different acharyas extract different conclusions which are just suitable to support their own philosophies.
He's saying this because in the nature of the 4 Sampradayas, Ramanuja would write his commentary, Madhvacharya would write his commentary, Nimbaditya would write his commentary, so taking out what would support their particular view, their vision of how, what is this philosophy, what is the relationship between the Jiva and Krishna. This is what it was all abounding around. What is the relationship between Krishna and the Jiva? Because previously, that Advaitavad had established that Krishna and the Jiva were one. So now it's taking some time to actually educate the masses, the people, that that philosophy is not correct. That philosophy is like Mayavad, and that was accepted, and it's still accepted in India today.
Sri Shankaracharya has used Vedanta Sutra to support his impersonal theory of illusion.
Yes, he's using the Vedanta Sutra, whereas Lord Buddha was not using any of the scriptures to support his philosophy. So by using the Vedanta Sutra, he's bringing this back. He's bringing these teachings back into India.
Which is called Vivartavad.
Hmm.
He said that one compromises the very essence of Brahm if one accepts any transformation in Brahm, that the doctrine of transformation, Parinamvad, is therefore completely faulty, and that Vivartavad is the only reasonable philosophy. According to his own needs, Sri Shankaracharya collected some Vedic mantras to support his Vivartavad, which is also known as Mayavad.
Vivartavad is like the doctrine of illusion. It's establishing this illusion. It will be explained. All of these truths are going to be explained as we go through.
We can understand from this that Parinamvad has been popular from early times and that Sri Shankara checked its acceptance by establishing Vivartavad, which is a sectarian doctrine.
Yeah, previously Parinamvad was there, this transformation. But Vivartavad is not saying transformation, it's saying the illusion, the illusory conception is correct. This is Vivartavad. It will be explained.
Shriman Madhvacharya, dissatisfied with Vivartavad, so he propounded the doctrine of dualism, Dvaitavad, which he also supported with the statements from the Vedas to suit his own purpose. Similarly, Ramanujacharya taught
You see, Madhvacharya had a purpose. He wanted to establish the murti of Krishna for a start. He wanted to all of these acharyas want to establish the personal aspect of Krishna, because Sankaracharya had more or less minimized that tremendously. So all of these sampradayas are resurrecting the personal conception all the way through, and they each have their different focuses of how to do that. It's not that they're essentially different in the essence of it, but they take different facets from the scripture to support that personal re-indoctrination, we can say, from Advaitavad, from Sankaracharya.
Similarly, Ramanujacharya taught specialized non-dualism, Vishishta Advaitavad.
Specialized. You see, Vashishtya means specialized.
Sri Nimbadityacharya taught dualism with monism, Advaitavad. And Sri Vishnu Swami taught purified non-dualism, Shuddha Advaitavad. Sri Shankaracharya's Mayavada philosophy is opposed to the basic principle of bhakti.
Yes, it's not focusing on Krishna. It's focusing ultimately on the impersonal Brahman, Advaitavad, and we are one, but it's going to be described.
Each of the Vaishnava Acharya has claimed that his principles are based on bhakti, although there are differences between the various philosophies that they taught. Sriman Mahaprabhu accepted all the Vedic conclusions with due respect and gave their essence in his own instructions. Mahaprabhu taught the doctrine of Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva, inconceivable difference and oneness.
It is inconceivable that the Jiva and Krishna should be the same. They are the same and they're not the same. Simultaneously, one and difference. It's such a sublime philosophy. It's so sweet to appreciate fully, because it's these other sampradayas, they were at loggerheads, so to speak, with this question. But Mahaprabhu just cut through it and said the Jiva and Krishna are one and yet different at the same time. Completely incredible. Achintya, inconceivable, the way he established it. This is one of the great gifts of Mahaprabhu.
He remained within the sampradaya of Sriman Madhvacharya, but still Sriman Mahaprabhu only accepted the essence of Madhvacharya's doctrine.
He stayed within the Madhvacharya's line because at the time of Mahaprabhu's advent, Madhvacharya's line was the most prominent. Mahaprabhu had a big message to give, so he took the most prominent sampradaya of the day, and that was the Brahma Madhva Sampradaya. So that's why he embraced that. And the teachings that Madhvacharya was proclaiming were very, very. But we see in Chaitanya Charitamrita how Madhvacharya, how Mahaprabhu, he goes to the Tattvavadis, which are like the Madhvacharya sannyasis who were their school that was left, and he defeats them completely. They had so many misconceptions. So it's not that he totally embraces this Madhvacharya Sampradaya at all. He's using it as he accepts, it's got here, he accepts the defeat of Mayavad because Madhvacharya is like Vayudev. He's like very, very powerful personality. And with his potency, he defeated Mayavad. And that was the principle of the Sampradayas, to defeat Advaita, this Advaita philosophy of Sankaracharya. And he did this by establishing the Murti, the Sri Murti. Once you have Thakurji, the Murti form, this will purify all Mayavad type of conceptions. So these two very great teachings are what Mahaprabhu took from the Madhva Sampradaya. But so much other teachings he didn't make prominent. Just these two, the Mayavad and the Murti, established of the Murti.
Vrajanath, what is the doctrine of Parinamvad transformation? Babaji, there are two kinds of Parinamvad. Brahma Parinamvad, the doctrine of transformation of Brahm, and Tat Shakti Parinamvad, the teaching of the transformation of energy.
Yes, you see this Brahm Parinamvad is what many of these some of these sampradayas were actually supporting, that it's the impersonal Brahm that has transformed. But sorry, not what the sampradayas were supporting, it's what Advaita Acharya was supporting. That this Advaita Sankaracharya, the Advaita Vad philosophy, it's what he was supporting, that this Brahmajyoti, the Brahman,
Yes.
has transformed.
Those who believe in Brahma Parinamvad, the transformation of Brahm, say that the Achintya, inconceivable, and Nirvishesh, formless Brahm, transforms itself into both living beings and inert
Now
material world.
listen very carefully to this. This is very important part.
To support this belief, they quote from the Chandogya Upanishad, Ekam Eva Dvitiyam. Before the manifestation of this universe, there existed only the absolute truth, a non dual tattva that exists in truth. According to this Vedic mantra, Brahma is the one and only Vastu.
Brahm.
Brahm is the only one and is the one and only Vastu which we should accept. This theory is also known as non dualism or Advaitavad. Look, in this theory, the word parinam, progressive transformation, is used, but the actual process that it describes is in fact vikara, destruction or deformation.
Yes, coming out of the Brahman, they're proclaiming that Brahm, which is impersonal, is transforming. But it's going to be described, how can something that is void transform when it has nothing to transform? It'll be described.
Those who teach transformation of energy, Shakti Parinamvad, do not accept any sort of transformation in Brahm.
Yes, it's coming from Shakti. The Brahm here, we can understand, is like the conception of the Vastu Parinamvad. This is what the Sampradayas thought. They thought it was actually Krishna what was transforming. But Mahaprabhu is establishing, no, it's Shakti that is transforming.
Rather, they say that the inconceivable Shakti or potency of Brahm is transformed. The Jiva Shakti portion of the potency of Brahm transforms into the individual spirit Jivas, and the Maya Shakti portion transforms into the material world. According to this theory, there is Parinam transformation, but not of Brahm.
Yeah, so this is the distinction between Brahm Parinambad and Shakti Parinambad. This was the question that Babaji, he's describing these two types of Parinam, because he's asked about Parinambad. So two, there's the Brahm and there's the Shakti. So now he's concluding that it's not Brahm, but it's Shakti.
Sa tatvato nyata buddhir vikara iti udarataha Sadanand's Vedanta Sar. The word vikara, modification, means that something appears to be what it is factually not.
Yes, something has transformed, but it's not what it originally was.
Brahm is accepted as a vastu, basic substance, from which two separate products appear, namely the individual souls and this material world. The appearance of substance that are different in nature from the original substance is known as vikara, modification.
Hmm.
What is a vikara? It is just something appearing to be what it is actually not. For example, milk is transformed into yogurt. Although yogurt is milk, it is called yogurt, and this yogurt is the vikara or modification of the original substance, in this case, milk.
Mhm.
According to Brahm Parinamvad, the material world and the jivas are the vikara of Brahm. Without any doubt, this idea is absolutely impure for the following reasons. Those who put forward this theory accept the existence of only one substance, namely the Nirvishesh Brahm. But how can this Brahm be modified into a second substance if nothing else exists apart from it?
Yes, if there's only the Brahm, how can something else manifest from there? It's very logical, it's very simple. It's not so complex. If we haven't delved into this topic before, it'll appear very complex. But once we begin to grasp it, especially the terminologies, what is parinam, what is vivard, what is vikar, these particular words for our vocabulary, if we get to understand what they are, then it's quite straightforward. How can the Nirvishesh Brahm transform into anything? It's Nirvishesh, it's nothing, it's not energy.
The theory itself does not allow the modification of Brahm. Accepting modification of Brahm defies logic, which is why Brahma Parinam Vad is not reasonable under any circumstances. However, there is no such fault in Shakti Parinam Vad because, according to this philosophy, Brahm remains unaltered at all times. Bhagavan's inconceivable Shakti that makes the impossible possible. Agatana Patiyasi Shakti. As an atomic particle which is transformed at some places as the individual souls, and it also has a shadow portion which is transformed in other places into material universes.
Two transformations coming, the jiva and the material energy.
When Brahm desired, let there be living entities, the Jiva Shakti part of the superior potency, Parashakti, immediately produced innumerable souls.
The
Simi-
Parashakti
Mm.
is producing innumerable souls, yes.
Similarly,
Not the Brahm.
yes. Similarly, when Brahm desired the existence of the material world, the Maya potency, the shadow of Parashakti, at once manifested the unfathomable, inanimate material world. Brahm accepts these changes while remaining free from change itself.
Yes, the Vastu doesn't change. The Shakti is transforming, not the Vastu. Brahm doesn't transform, because this is what the Sampradayas were um, uh, debating,
Hmm.
this point, and this is what Mahaprabhu reconciles.
One may argue, desiring is itself a transformation. So, how can this transformation occur in the desireless Brahm?
Yes.
The answer to this is you're comparing the desire of Brahm to the desire of the Jiva and calling it a Vikar, modification. Now, the Jiva is an insignificant Shakti, and whenever he desires, that desires comes from contact with another Shakti. For this reason, the desire of the Jiva is called Vikar. However, the desire of Brahm is not in this category.
The Jiva is a Shakti, and Brahm is not like that.
Maharaj, we can actually connect this to one of the Falshruti where he says Krishna is the Bhokta, he's the enjoyer.
Yes.
So his nature is to desire. His
Yes.
original nature is to desire, whereas ours is Shakti.
Yes.
We are not supposed to have an.
Right.
I think.
Krishna is desiring, and the Shakti is manifesting on top of his desire.
Correct.
This is how it is.
So
Absolutely.
that is why his desire doesn't become a vikar because it is his natural
Yes,
potency.
correct. Very good. Yes.
However, the desire of Brahm is not in this category. The independent desire of Brahm is part of its intrinsic nature.
Mm-hmm.
It is one with the Shakti of Brahm
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time different from it.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, the desire of Brahm is the Swarup of Brahm and there is no place for Vikar.
Modification, yes, because the Swarupa Brahm, it's complete. It's the original. So there's no modification.
When Brahm desires, Shakti becomes active, and only Shakti is transformed.
So this is Shakti, Shaktiman. So you see, we've had a background now. We went through the 14th chapter. We can see clearly how this is unfolding.
This subtle point is beyond the discriminating power of Jiva's minute intelligence and can only be understood through the testimony of the Vedas.
Yeah, we just simply accept these with due faith that this is the explanation of this manifestation of Shakti Parinambad, not Vastu Parinambad. This is basically what he's substantiating here, that it's the Shakti that is transforming, not the Vastu, not the Nirvishesh Brahm. That can't transform. But the Shakti, if it's inspired by the desire of Shaktiman, then it will manifest.
Now, we must consider the Parinam transformation of Shakti. The analogy of milk changing into yogurt may not be the best example to explain Shakti Parinam Vad. Material examples do not give a complete understanding of spiritual principles, but they can still enlighten us regarding certain specific aspects. The Chintamani gem is a material object that can produce many varieties of jewels, but it is not transformed or deformed itself in any way.
Yes, it produces the jewels, etc., the Chintamani, but it doesn't change itself. So Krishna is like that. It's inspiring Shakti, but Krishna himself is not transforming. This is the point. They were thinking that the Vastu is transforming. That was the misconception.
Sri Bhagavan's creation of this material world should be understood as being something similar to this. As soon as Bhagavan desires, his Achintya Shakti, inconceivable potency, creates innumerable universes of 14 planetary systems and worlds where the Jivas can live, but he himself remains absolutely unchanged.
Very simple. Clear? It's actually really clear. It's quite simple. But we have to read it with focused attention. We can't just sort of be casual in the reading of any of this chapter, actually. It's really us demanding us to focus and concentrate on these topics to understand the depth of what he's actually explaining. Because it is achintya, it is inconceivable to our tiny intelligence and mind. He's already established that. So it requires focus to appreciate it.
It should not be understood that this untransformed supreme is nirvishesh, formless and impersonal. On the contrary, this supreme is the great and all encompassing substance Brahm, Brihad Vastu Brahm. He is eternally Bhagavan, the master of the six opulences. If one accepts him as merely Nirvishesh, one cannot explain his spiritual Shakti.
Yes, this is actually starting to dismantle the whole Mayavad conception. He's doing it slowly, and this is what it's going to be happening through the whole chapter. Is dismantling and purifying totally the Advaitavad, the Mayavad conception. So he's beginning now to describe that supreme personality of Godhead and his potency. And by his desire, the Shakti will manifest. It's he is desiring, and then Shakti will fulfill those desires. Swarup Shakti only is concerned with fulfilling Krishna's desires. In the Leela, we understand. And now here is the Tattva at the same parallel.
This is nice, Maharaj. If one accepts him as merely Nirvishesh, one cannot explain his spiritual Shakti. It's
No.
very, very beautiful.
Yes.
By his Achintya Shakti, he exists simultaneously in both personal and impersonal forms. To suppose
That's the achintya of it. He has his impersonal form as well as his personal form. It has the opposites reconciled. It's like Krishna can walk and he can be stationary. He's born.
Yes,
Karmani anihasya bhavobhavasita. He's born, and yet he's unborn. He's like fear personified, yet he runs away and hides in a fortress in Dwarka. There's so many contradictions. He's the most renounced, yet he lives with 16,000 queens. It's described that the sages are bewildered by this inconceivable, apparently inconsistency. But this is to show us, don't try to logically place the Lord in some type of material box according to our own time and space. Time and space are material considerations. When we're considering the Supreme, it's beyond time. There's no time in the spiritual world, and it's beyond space. There's no space like that here. But as soon as we start to break it down and become intellectualized on it, we have to immediately bring it into this time and space consideration. And that loses the achintya aspect, or the actual inconceivable truth of it.
To suppose that he is only Nirvishesh is to accept only half the truth without full understanding. His relationship with the
He's
material
a nirvishesh because in the Brahman, we've already discussed so many times, are the two qualities of vairagya
and
and gyan.
Gyan.
So these are impersonal qualities, they're not direct qualities. So that is there, as well as it's the personal effulgence of the Lord. So it's both. So for the devotee, reading this and studying this and appreciating this, our nishta in the Supreme should increase at his inconceivable nature, that we can't fix him. Because many times in philosophical readings and so on, we try to put it within the limits. This is what it was saying in the Falshruti also. The Mayavadi, it said in that was that we read it today. The
dismembers.
limitations of time, such as birth and death, considers that he is not transcendental. In that verse
Thus he
4,
rejects.
the Mayavadi thinks that Krishna to be the subject to the limitations of time. This is exactly the same as we were discussing before, like the frog in the well. He wants to make a comparison to his own tiny experience of one well. Is the ocean 20 times as big as my well, etc.? So it's inconceivable. So we should leave our material considerations aside and accept the achintya, the inconceivable, with astonishment and affection.
To suppose that he is only Nirvishesh is to accept only half the truth without full understanding. His relationship with the material world is described in the Vedas using the instrumental Karana case to describe
To signify
to signify by which the ablative apadan case to signify from which, and to the locative adhikaran case to signify in which. It is stated in the Taittiriya Upanishad, yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhi vishanti tad vignasvam tad brahm. One should know that Brahm is he from whom all living beings are born, by whose power they remain alive, and into whom they enter at the end. He is the one about whom you should inquire. He is Brahm.
So how can that be nirvishesh? How can that be that void of all qualities, etc.?
In this shloka, Yatova Imani, the ablative apadan case for Ishvara, is used when it is said that the living beings are manifested from him. Yena, which is the instrumental Karana case, is used when it is said that all the sentient creatures live by his power, and yet, which indicates the locative adhikar karana case, is used when it is said that all living beings enter into him in the end.
So three considerations here, giving according to the ablative and the instrumental
Locative.
and the locative. So three considerations there.
These three symptoms show that absolute truth is supreme. This is his unique feature. That is why Bhagavan is always Savishesh.
This is so important, you see, to place the supremacy of the Lord over any Mayavad misconception.
Hmm.
This is what Babaji is going to purify in Brajanath's mind today during this particular chapter, all the way through. That this remnant of Advaitavad is still prevalent, and that's what needs to be actually completely purified. That Krishna, with his qualities, etc., Savishesh means with, Vesh means like literally dress, Nirvishesh means without form, without dress, etc. So Savishesh is the opposite to that. And Krishna is actually both. But this is why Bhagavan is always he's actually always Savishesh, but men, they choose to call him
Nirvishesh.
Nirvishesh. So this is a misunderstanding. Possessing form, qualities,
Possessing
and
form,
past.
qualities, and pastimes.
But these form, qualities, and pastimes are actually manifesting from Shakti.
Hmm.
They're manifesting from Shakti. We read that in the previous chapter. That's where they're manifesting from. But he is the one who's desiring them.
Free will and
He's the origin of them, because they wouldn't manifest without him.
Srila Jiva Goswami describes the Supreme Person in these words: Ekam eva param tattvam swab swaba स्वाभाविकचिन्तया शक्त्या सर्वदैव स्वरूप तद्रूप वैभव जीवप्रधानरूपेण चतुर्द्वावतिष्ठते सूर्य अन्तर्मण्डलस्थ तेज इव मण्डल तद् भगीरथ तद् रश्मि तत् प्रतिच्छाविरूपेण. The absolute truth is one. His unique characteristic is that is he is endowed with inconceivable potency through which he is always manifested in four ways. Number one, Swarup as his original form. Number two, Tadrupa Vaibhava as his personal splendor.
These are all very, very personal attributes that are being described here. They're not nirvishesh. They're not abstract at all.
Swarup as his original form. Number two, Tadrup Vaibhava as his personal splendor, including his abode and his eternal associates, expansions, and avatars. Jivas, the individual spirit souls. And number four, Pradhan as the material energy.
Mm.
These four features are likened to the interiors of the sun planet, the surface of the sun planet, the sun rays emanating from its surface from this surface, and a remotely situated reflection respectively.
So these four are described in many different places. They're described in the
Bhagavad.
Bhagavatam. They're also described in Shikshastakam. Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes in many times these four. Jiva Goswami in principle describes these four: the Swarup, the Tadrupa Vaibhav, and the Jiva,
Jiva Pradhan.
and Pradhan. So these four must be appreciated. And if you're listening, you should write down these four, and I can send you some more information about that. But we should appreciate the analogy of the sun planet. The surface of the sun is different from the sun planet. There's a distinction here. And the sun rays are actually different from the sun, because it's from like the rays of Mahavishnu's glance is described that many jivas are coming, and then the emanating from the surface, and the remotely situated reflection is like Maya. That is the reflection of the sun. So these four to consider are very wonderful for the consciousness to appreciate. This is called tattva, and we can't understand it fully, but we can appreciate it thoroughly.
These examples only partially explain the absolute truth. His original form is Sat Chit Ananda, full of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. And his spiritual name, abode, associates, and the entire paraphernalia is his direct service are opulence that are non-different from himself, Swarup Vaibhav. The countless Nitya Mukta and Nitya Baddha Jivas are dependent conscious atoms. Anuchit Pradhan includes Maya Pradhan and its products are the entire gross and subtle material worlds. These four features exist eternally, and similarly, the oneness of Supreme Absolute is also eternal.
So there's two aspects here, and they're both different, but they're actually one at the same time. It's like when we say the verse, Vedanti tat tat yajnanam advayam, Brahmati, Paramatmati, Bhagavan, iti sabhite. It's three truths, and they're quite distinct. What is the Brahman, what is Paramatma, and what is Bhagavan? And yet they are one. It's exactly like you look at a candle, and you see a candle has a flame, and then it has heat, and then it has light. These are three aspects of a single candle. You say, oh, it's just a candle, but you can define it as three qualities within the candle, or three aspects. So here, these four aspects are described about Krishna. The fourth is the material energy. Then there's Jiva. Then there's Krishna and his Swarup, Vaibhav, the opulences, etc. This is like the Shakti. So you have the sun planet, and then you have the Shakti, and then you have the Jivas, and then you have the reflection. These are four. So I think we're going to stop there. This is, as I said at the very beginning of the class, this is an intense topic. This whole chapter is an intense topic. But if we just patiently listen, we will know forever where these topics are described whenever the need comes for us to get support from these topics in our progress in bhakti. Because there will come times when we will hear different things and spoken in different places. And if we can always relate them to the Siddhanta, this is the most important thing, that we are getting a good foundation and platform in Tattva Siddhanta. This is what the beloved Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving us, because he knows in this Kali Yuga, everything is all over the place. There's fake stuff everywhere. So this Tattva Siddhanta is imperative, but it requires focus to appreciate. So I would suggest that it will make it very easy for you if you listen to either the recording or you read the entirety of the chapter, and then you will get the overall picture. We actually have to read or listen to this chapter a number of times to actually get its consistency, etc. But we should see where we're coming from simultaneously. We've come from the three aspects of Krishna, the Supreme Lord, Shakti, Shaktiman, and Raso Vaisa, these three aspects, and we've come from Jiva Tattva, Vibhinamsa Tattva, the Jiva is bound by Maya, and the Jiva is liberated from Maya. We've come through these steps already, and now we're reconciling. This Achintya Beta Tattva is more or less, the first three were Krishna, the second three were the Jiva. Now how to reconcile the relationship between Krishna and the Jiva. This is what this chapter is about. And fundamentally, they are one and yet different. The difference is more extreme than the oneness. We've described that previously. So this is the sublimity of this particular chapter. So there's consistency within Bhaktivinoda Thakur's presentation. It's quite amazing when you think how he's constructed this Jaiva-Dharma. It fits absolutely so beautifully, sublimely, because it's completely transcendental. But the subject matter today is like, it doesn't just drop off the plate. It has to be approached with an attentive, conscious attention to appreciate it. So we'll stop here. The next question Brajana is going to ask, what is Vivartavad? So we're going to discuss that tomorrow. Basically, Vivartavad is the illusory world. That is like a Mayavad conception. So we'll discuss that tomorrow. So this is very valuable information, actually. It's giving us good foundation. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Jaiva-Dharma ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha. Hari Bol, Hari Bol.